at the border between the light and the dark.
Greetings. Welcome to the Savage Gav. Monster Manual 2 by Gary Gygax, published 1983. We're looking at the art and it's old. We need to acknowledge the fact that the Monster Manual 2, a lot of the monsters in it were already published in earlier modules or in Dragon magazine. For example, Expedition to the Barrier Peaks, Module S3, Queen of the Demon-Wed Pits, Module Q1, The Forgotten Temple of Tharizdun, WG4, In the Dungeons of the Slave Lords, Module A4. These all included some or a lot of the monsters that appear in Monster Manual 2, and they included images, which I'm including here as well, and they predate the Monster Manual 2. So the Monster Manual 2 was kind of compiled and heavily written by Gary Gygax, but there were other authors involved as well. Dragon magazines around 1982, 1983 included bits and pieces. So Dragon magazine really was a place where a lot of early ideas were explored before they were sort of properly put into the monster manuals or whatever. And we also can't forget the 4 series of cards. So to the left is the older original art, center, Monster Manual 2, top right, module number, dragon number, or card number. So for starters, the Jeff Easley cover. Well, I think it raised the bar on the covers. This is a great cover. I like Jeff Easley's art so much, I bought this other piece. But there are other versions of this, also with spectacular covers. But let's look at the interior. Interior art is by Jim Holloway, Harry Quinn, David C. Sutherland III, and Larry Elmore. And that puts us actually into the images. I do like the way they started this off with these tongue-in-cheek images. This is a freaky monster. It's almost Lovecraftian in nature. The Afunk, which creates whirlpools. Anis the Hag, who is friends with the Green Hag. A rolling fungus that shoots poisonous spores. Yeah, some of these images are just weird. With sources as diverse as Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet and Latin, The Gold and To Devour. I got a bit of feedback. Apparently, some viewers actually enjoy my random commentary, so I'm going to be talking about some of these monsters, like the Bandalog, which first appeared in S3 as the Babonoid. This seems to have some very obscure and strange monsters. Honestly, I haven't played with this book myself. Some of the monsters actually have entered into fairly mainstream use. A lot of the monsters seem like they've just put a word in front of it, like death or dead or fire or ice.
The behemoth.
A repurposed hippopotamus. These things swallow you and keep treasure in the tummy. Erol Otus's covers are sublime. And you may have seen a cool film called Odd Thomas, which features Bodax as the villains. Yeah, no one likes a Bogart the way they hog things. Nearly missed this, The Boggle, which my son knows. And not only did Gary Gygax write seminal game books, he also wrote some fairly important novels, or early Dungeons & Dragons novels anyways, which include Gord the Rogue, descended from the Cat Lord, and a decent hero. And I think he becomes the Cat Lord, not to be confused with a catfish. And another monster that appears in another series of books, R.A. Salvatore's Dristo Odin series, The Underdark, features the Cave Fisher. And coming up, we have quite an amusing monster which uses disguise to get its prey, the cloaker, that looks like a cloak hanging over the back of a chair, apparently. So you pick it up, you put it on, and it eats you. Brilliant, that one. I wonder if anyone's ever used that. A Cyclops skin. When you can't find a Cyclops, you go with a Cyclops kin. Oh, man. Yeah, I reckon they were just copywriting all these various names just for themselves, just making sure they got in first. Yeah, some of these names are impronounceable. I'm going to try and pronounce one of these. Chirona Damon.
Matt Damon.
Well, that wasn't too bad, I guess. Now, next up we have Durkhodamon.
Matt Damon.
Hydrodamon. Not so bad.
Matt Damon.
Oinodamon. Pisodamon. Ultra Daemon. Is that Ultraman? You could... Yeah, no, that wasn't meant to be pronounced. And we have the Death Crimson, which is Crimson Death, which is Red Death. A Demi-Lich, which is like half a lich. So Demodans, the name comes from an evil creature in The Dying Earth by Jack Vance, which is Deodand. They appear in Gore the Rogue. There's one named Utmodark.
Matt Damon!
Who works for Neril. Wolfgar encounters a Farastu in the Halfling's Gem. So they do appear in a number of the publications. The Lost Caverns of Sludgecanth has actually been cited as a mini monster manual, and it includes the Demon Prince Baphomet, Fraz Ublu Grast, and Koshchishi.
Matt Damon!
Nabasu. This joke's over, I'm killing it. I'm not sure about the rest of the world, but in Australia, a dero is a derogatory term for a derelict person. Derelict! Dragon Magazine 75 included a preview of Monster Manual 2, Demons and Their Realms. No images of the demons, but some great Elmore art. And then in Dragon 91, Hell was revisited with Dagon, Gargoth, Styx, and other sundry demons. And I've been running the Descent into Avernus 5e campaign with some friends, and as part of this video I've found out that Avernus has been around since 1983, which is rather cool. Anyways, not really much to say about these demons. As I said, they were in that Dragon magazine, but just their stats and their descriptions, none of these images. And Moloch appeared in other fantasy publications such as the Bible, and by that I mean the cover of the 1978 Player's Handbook. And who could possibly forget the Duke of Hell himself, Titivilus? There wasn't really a good alternate source of images of dinosaurs, and so I grabbed the dinosaur attack images. I can't stress how much fun it is to go into a Lost World setting in Dungeons & Dragons and fight dinosaurs. The Isle of Dread, the Kingdom of Irendi, the Hollow Earth, part of the Bekmi system in Mystara, all presented opportunities to come across dinosaurs. Tomb of Annihilation also sort of had a Lost World setting, and you could fight some dinosaurs, including a zombie Tyrannosaurus Rex. Definitely getting Ray Harryhausen, Beast from 20,000 Fathoms vibes. Clearly he's an inspiration for Dungeons & Dragons. I've lost count of the number of times I've watched Jason and the Argonauts. Sorry, off topic. Back to Monster Manual 2. The Shadow Dragon, which appeared in Streams of Silver as the big bad that Bruna kills, and he rides it flaming into the depths, holding Drist's sword, Icing Death, which protects him from the fire. Dynan, Drist's brother. The Dugas also appear prominently in R.A. Salvatore's stories. The Dust Digger? Wait, I've got a bad feeling about this. Actually, the Dust Digger appears quite extensively in a lot of the adventures. The Electric Eel, which ironically is actually in the Monster Manual, it's just meant to have double the damage of the Freshwater Eel. The Executioner's Hood, another of those great monsters, and it drops from the roof onto people's heads and then eats their heads. Apparently, it doesn't like alcohol and it evolves into other monsters. I recently finished the Tomb of Annihilation with my friends, and we battled a froghemoth, and yeah, any monster that you put tentacles onto is immediately made even better. That's Erol Otus's version of the froghemoth. So I waxed poetic about Jeff Easley's cover art for this monster manual. It includes a furbolg on the cover, and furbolgs don't get enough love, but they appear along with the Verbeegs in The Crystal Shard by R.A. Salvatore at the very start. And I mentioned Ray Harryhausen before, and his Hydra from Jason and the Argonauts. Oh my god, so cool. So cool. Gripply, another Erol Otus piece of art. And it is with no small chagrin that I admit that I'm an Australian and only Australians will get that joke. And pun intended, I must admit I really dig the Vardig. It is a horribly cool looking thing. And that's a really naff looking haunt. And we can't forget Lulu the Oliphant from Descent into Avernus. A Hibsil, a monster named to confound me. An Ent by any other name would kill as sweet.
Release the Kraken.
Release the Kraken!
Release the... Look, I'm really sorry, I can't stop cracking jokes. Pick where these sound effects came from. You guessed it, and the sea wolf sounds similar to the airwolf.
Liquid hot magma.
And the married actually appears twice in modules, so it's pretty popular. The Mistu, ironically, Mist in German means something quite different, which is why Gorillas in the Mist is quite an amusing film to the Germans. I couldn't find a decent image of a Modron, so I had to use a modern Modron image. And the modern ones tie in pretty nicely with the Warforged, Artificers, etc. But the older ones actually tie in pretty well with something like Expedition to the Barrier Peaks. And they actually appear in the Tomb of Annihilation, which is pretty cool. But in spite of that, this artwork doesn't inspire me at all. So I'm not really sure why they had a Margoyle when it seems like it's almost like a gargoyle. Mongrel Men, not sure you can name them that anymore. Might not be that appropriate, really. Mud and muck. I think we need a scrupulously clean monster. The Myconids are a groovy little monster from the dungeons of the Slave Lords, illustrated by Erol Otus, and they look like so much fun. So yeah, great stuff. There are a lot of female water type monsters. Not sure why we need another one, but why not? And a unicorn of the sea. Cool. And Timothy, friend of Lulu. And one of the things I find as a DM is it's really, really good to use silly voices or voices that are strange. I was watching a YouTube video and they had a character who wore a helm over his head and who spoke like this. Yeah, so he was a regular buckethead. And I like to speak like Bane. Bane is a great voice. Yeah, the only problem is that when I try and do accents, I often switch from accent to accent. Like I go from French to Scottish to Irish, and they'll all not sound very good. But anyways, that's just me. I hope other people can do better voices than me. The other one I was thinking about, I saw the goat before, and I thought, great monster to have a goat voice, and you would speak like, like a billy goat gruff. For some reason, I recall this being a kelpie, not a selkie, like a dog is a kelpie. But anyways, like another female water type creature and a slime creature. I think that was in another module, but it didn't have an image, so yeah, you don't get it, sorry. One of the fun things about going through the old modules was finding some really, really great art. And yeah, I mean, the same people who did the art for the other monster manuals pops up and everything, but just a lot of really, really good, cool, fun art. And lots of it. I did mention the art cards. There was 4 series of them, TSR series 8009 through to 8012, and each of the series had about 3 or 4 images, cards, which featured new monsters, which made their way ultimately into the Monster Manual 2. And they are the colour ones like this, the Thrycreen. They're pretty cool. I really kind of like the idea of them, but I didn't know about them, and I just stumbled across them. I'm like, wow, a whole pile of new monsters. And yeah, and that's where they were. The land urchin or urchin land. So this stuff comes from all over. Oh, the veggie pygmy, these are unreal. S3, but oh my gosh. And Erol Otus's art is extremely cool. And so, yeah, the veggie pygmies also appear in Tomb of Annihilation. And Tomb of Annihilation has the whole Lost City, which ties in really, really nicely with all of the Yuan Ti, who have a slave race, the Tasloi, who you saw the images of previously, and they guard the Yuan Ti and the entrance to their realm. Anyways, getting back to the images. Worms. And a Zarin, which I confused with a Zorn, as you would do. So I nearly included an image of a Zorn in here. And the yokel, that looks very, very one-eyed monsterish. And as I mentioned, the Yuan Ti. And don't forget the dragon, no, the zombie T-Rex. What a zombie monster. And a bit of music. Just to finish it off. Yes.